Hello and welcome to Climate Check with me, Mary Mwikisa. This program is brought to you courtesy HIVO's Southern Africa with its alliance partners under the VCA project. And of course, today we have a very interesting program as we will be discussing the impact of the VCA project on rural communities in Zambia. Join me on the other side. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature such as forests has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. Now, to start the program, we take you to Chongwe district where we speak to Lucy Dende. This is a lady who's living with a disability. And of course, she has been impacted by the drought because she is involved in horticultural agriculture. Let's hear her story and how she is creating resilience around her farming activities. Zambia has experienced a major drought in 40 years. The El Niño-induced drought, which has been worsened by climate change, has affected agriculture, food security and livelihoods. The devastating impact of the drought is more for persons with disabilities. This is the story of Lucy Dende of Chongwe. Having lost all her crop, Lucy reminisces over the good old days when her chicken run and piggery were thriving.
This drought that we had this past season was really, really bad because we do what we call in our village seed banks. We take local seeds and we reproduce them, things like beans, sorghum, and unfortunately we lost most of the crop. So we had to start from scratch. Most of the stuff we had to start from scratch. In these past years, I had a piggery, and we had some broiler chickens, and even the village chickens were more than the ones you see now. But because of the drought, we had to sell all our pigs, we had to sell most of the chickens, and some of the production had to stop because we mostly had to rely on what we were growing to feed the animals. And then maybe a few supplements here and there which we bought from Agros, but about 80% of our produce on this farm was supporting the animals. So we had to get rid of the animals. But even in the course of getting rid of the animals, we got a hammer mill, because where we were going to produce our food, there was no more electricity. So we couldn't make feed for the animals or for ourselves. So we had to sell off all the animals, and the money I bought a hammer mill. But even though we did buy a hammer mill, still we had the problem of what are we going to mill?
Even the hammer mill business is not yielding much, as most people in her community lost their crop, which means very little grain to grind.
We lost 80% of our maize, grains, things like sorghum, our soya, our groundnuts, and I guess almost everything. We didn't even harvest any beans this year. We only had a few leaves which we dried for future use. And even the seeds, we didn't get as much seeds as we would get on the other years where we would make seed banks. I can say we have lost a lot of crops. We have lost our animals, and I've also lost workers because I couldn't pay them what I was supposed to pay them because I didn't have anything anymore that I could manage to pay them. So I scaled down from about 15 workers to 5 workers. And even now I'm still struggling to pay those workers because of what happened with the drought.
She is calling on those responsible for causing harm to the planet to pay for the loss and damage so that vulnerable communities can adapt.
Already disability is an issue. It's a big challenge in itself. But with the climate change coming in, it's now a new game altogether. And then I've noticed since this climate change has been happening, my body is fighting to adapt. It's different from the years before where my body would adapt to the weather and you know that it's cold, so your body adapts. But now it's so hard. It's so hard. And I've noticed I'm now taking twice as much meds than I used to because of the weather. So it's really, really tough. When you go to the public hospitals, they usually don't have specialized medication for my condition. So everything has to be prescribed. And then things like, because I'm on a catheter, and I've noticed that here in Zambia, we don't have anyone who supplies biocatheters. So I have to get the catheters from out of the country. And then they need a prescription from that particular country, like from UK or America or South Africa. So now I have the challenge of raising money to go to South Africa to see a doctor, and that's the only way I can get 2 catheters, which will last me maybe 2-3 months. So which means my health is compromised. It's being disabled has now become very expensive. I feel that those countries that have contributed to ruining our world, they should have there should be some sort of compensation to countries which do not contribute so much damage to the environment, because really it's not our fault. The people in power should think about that, I don't know how they'll do it. I don't know much of how that goes, but compensation it's due. It's due. Yeah, it's something that has to be put on the table and discussed by our leaders.
Now, during COP28, countries agreed to the operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund, meant to assist the vulnerable countries who suffer from climate-induced disasters. The real impact and implementation of the fund, coupled with fulfillment of financial obligations from the global north, is yet to be seen. For now, Lucy Dende can only hope, and hope for the best. Mary Mwikisa for Climate Check in Chongwe. Remember, this program is brought to you by HIVOS Southern Africa and its alliance partners under the VCA project. Let's now understand more about the role of the VCA project, especially in informal settlements right here in Zambia, as I'll be speaking to the people that represent informal settlements and also those that support the projects in various parts of this country. I'll start with you, Mr. Matimba. What is your organization all about before we talk about your linkage to the VCA project?
All right, thank you for giving us this opportunity. So I'm coming from an organization called People's Process on Housing and Poverty in Zambia, which is basically a national office for a global organization called Slum Dealers International, which is part of the VCA alliance or consortium at that level. So like the names, I think the name summarizes it all. We largely work in informal settlements, just trying to build resilience against climate impacts in informal settlements, to try and figure out how can men, women, and youths in the informal settlements can be supported to be able to adapt to climate change. There's a lot that is happening in informal settlements, but our view of climate change is unlike other organizations. That's why we're in the VCA Alliance, but also bringing a different perspective to it. We believe that I think there are aspects of habitat that are not well pronounced. I think issues to do with housing, issues to do with flooding as a result of infrastructure. So we emphasize on us trying to see how can we have infrastructure that supports people to be able to withstand climate impact at that level.
Okay.
So as an organization, we have got different principles that we follow. One of them being that the poor needs to be at the center of initiatives that are designed to support them to be able to build resilience or to end poverty at that level. We also have other principles that states that if we are pro-poor,
Yes.
in the sense that if you make, I think, bread cheaper for a person in Kanyama, even a person in Kabulonga can still afford it. So we believe that in every policy that is put in place by the government, by any stakeholders, it should reflect the needs and priorities of the poor people at that level. We also believe that we don't believe in dependence syndrome. So the communities themselves need to save up their monies and also contribute towards the development in their community. So the resources of the poor themselves are very important in actually helping to reduce poverty and also climate vulnerability at that level. So as an organization, again, we have different methodologies that we use. We believe in partnerships, so we partner with universities just to further, because for us to deal with urban informality and how it's vulnerable to climate change, there are so many, there's so much gap in terms of knowledge of understanding why are things happening in a certain way. So we partner with these guys to try to come up with knowledge that is very credible, that is used for policy making, that is used to also influence other potential funders at that level. And also we believe in data. Data, because knowledge is power. So our women that we work with and youths, they're the ones who collect data routinely on how many people have been affected by climate change in a certain way, be it cholera, be it houses falling because of floods. They're the ones who lead that component on data collection. And that data is now what we use to leverage for support from different stakeholders at that level. Savings also is another methodology that we use. So our women do savings in different forms of savings. And Alice would speak to that since she's here. I can't speak on her behalf. They also do savings. Savings are the ones that enables them now to be able to contribute to some of these processes that we are working on, and also to be able to leverage those resources to get more funds from government and from different stakeholders at that level.
Madam Alice, let me understand the works that you do as an organization.
I'm the region leader for Zambia Homeless and Poor People's Federation, a leader who is looking in light of all the settlements in Zambia, and also a leader who is in the community because I stay in Kanyama. So the work which I do is broad, because you're not just looking at Kanyama, but the whole Zambia in 9 provinces. Our organization has got a membership of more than 49,000. Yeah, it's from Lusaka up the Copper Belt and the other places which have not mentioned. And our work in the community is to bring the members in the community, to bring them together to see how we can fight poverty at household level, and how we can be engaged, not left out in all the sectors of economic, and also to see that our voices are heard, because without us, the voices cannot be heard. So Zambia Homeless and Poor People's Federation is a grassroots movement of poor people, but not hopeless. Through the savings which you've just heard Mr. Matimba is talking about, that's the strength which gives us strength to lobby and to partner with other organizations, because our resources comes from us. Little by little, each and every one, when we contribute, put them together, automatically it brings brief, and it also brings sanity by showcasing that this is what we are doing on our own before asking for other people or other wishes to come on board.
So what kind of people are you working with? What type of members are you working with? In Kanyama, for example, who are these members? How do they join? How do you decide who should be a member?
Joining of member, it's open. We work with women with disabilities. We also work with the youth, as for now, because youth are the strong tool in our organization, whom we call that they are new tier leaders who have got a voice, very much energetic with strength. And we also work with the women, and our organization is superior to the women, because women, we are breadwinners. And we involve women without any payment, as long as we come together to start doing our savings. And that saving it makes us to assess That's where now data comes in. To see that if you save a 10 kwacha, automatically the other day to not let you down, people will recognize you and help you in another way around.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, Mr. Matimba, let's talk about your linkage to the VCA project as People's Process on Housing and Poverty in Zambia. How are you linked, and also what are some of the works that you're doing?
All right, thank you. Like what I said, People's Process on Housing and Poverty is a national office for Slum Dwellers International. And Slum Dwellers International is a consortium member or alliance member for the VCA, which is the Voices for Just Climate Action Program, which is being implemented in 10 districts. So us as SDI, we are implementing 3 districts, namely Lusaka, Chongwe, and Kafue, where we are predominantly working in urban areas, but also trying to bridge the linkages between, I think, the barriers between the urban and rural people, to see how can we also test some of our tools in the rural setups to see if we can also help them in a way. But largely we are in the informal settlements in towns where also issues of climate change are happening. In terms of the activities that we are doing, we are focusing at co-creating local climate solutions, which I think we believe we did in the first part of the program, just trying to identify some of the solutions that the communities are doing and what has potential at community level. So I can safely say that within that process, it was back and forth, but very interesting. Both the communities are doing something. It's a lie to say communities are just waiting for solutions from somewhere. We need to appreciate what they're doing. And some of the solutions that we identified include sack gardening that was happening, including issues of hydroponics, including black soldier fly farming. Some of those technologies were not really happening at a bigger scale, but what happened is that we had to bring now different think tanks to help them to package and be able to study the context and come up with scientific solutions that works for the community. Beyond that, we are trying to look at how can the communities now be empowered to be able to implement and scale up that. So there's a lot of resource mobilization that is happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of discussion with different stakeholders just to understand how they can support. And after that, we are also working with the communities, trying to capacitate them with skills to look for money for themselves for sustainability purposes. The program will not be there forever, but we need to ensure that whatever that they have is actually they have the capacity to access CDF and also some of the resources that are available at a local level.
So as Zambia Homeless for People's Federation, Madam Alice, let's speak, for example, during the times when there's flooding in Kanyama, for example. How does your organization come to the table to help the situation? How do you make a difference in the community with your work?
What we basically do, we are engaged. We are the owners, and we know that the solution comes from us. In terms of floods, what we basically do, we usually move door to door. Despite of water, we are always available in the community. So we talk of floods. We have engaged ourselves in doing waste management, where we want to unblock the drainages by collecting waste. And with the same waste through the VCA program, we've managed to come up and do the separation, which has made us also to earn something for saving, where we separate the bottles, we separate the food, the waste food. We also separate the same waste and make organic manure, which has given strength to the women so that it is not laboring to them to buy fertilizer. We just make them on our own and also utilize it, put it into our vegetables, and also if we make them in a bulk, we take them to the farms and put those organic waste in our fields. So in that area, the community is not sleeping, because without us, nothing can work. So we are there also to make sure that we bring resilience to our community by being involved in the activities in our community. And we are talking of drainage as for now, there is food for work. The women have also joined hands to do that work so that we can see that our communities are not the same, they are in a different way. And within ourselves as federation members, we also come in each and everyone, we share information on weekly basis where we usually meet, because we have got places where we usually meet. So in these forums, we share what challenges are on board. Automatically, that's the area where we get information and share it even to our partners, so that as we are robbing for resources or robbing for information, automatically each and every community member, a youth, a disabled woman, an ordinary woman in the community, the churches will also have one voice and know what is transpiring in our community. In terms of floods, we are also there, because when flood comes in, we identify the homes which have been flooded. And by so doing, we work with Ministry, the Disaster Management Unit, the WDC, which the ward councillors, to come together to see how we can see that we are also there to make our community to come on board, so that we can have a resilient life towards everyone.
Mr. Matimba, talk to me about the impact of the work that you're doing with your partners on these communities that you are the catchment area.
All right, thank you. I think one of the things that when we started the program, there were few women who were involved in some of this local climate action. And it's very interesting that now Alice here can now explain some what she's doing. I mean, for the first time, confidently. That's one of the things that we look at. But we have supported so many households with gardens, which helps them also to get some food at that level. We have really experimented with some technology like hydroponics, which is soilless farming. You don't use soil and stuff in an urban setup. And the goodness of it is that we have already gotten support or financial support to experiment and also scale up, which is a positive result towards, I think, seeing it working in an informal settlement and also providing employment for the youths at that level.
Mr. Matimba, lastly, talk to me about the next level grant facility, how it works, and who qualifies to apply for it.
All right, thank you. The next level grant facility, this is, I think, additional resources that have been put on the VCA program, which are being held by Slum Dwellers International. So unfortunately at this point, the first call has just closed, think, last week. But basically these are funds which are meant for those that we call hard to reach. So a hard to reach person are people who have no capacity to apply for a formal grant because of their informality in nature. They're not registered, they don't have bank accounts, etc. But they're doing good work on the ground. So those are the people that we are targeting across the 10 districts where the VCA is being implemented. I don't know, people can Google, since time is on our side, the 10 districts. But it's a fund that is ranged from 2000.
But there will be a second round.
We hope that there will be a second round early January. But if there are people, because we have got two types of grants that we have. We've got project-based where people can come and say, I've got this project that I want to do, and then we fund them. And then we have got what we call emergency grants, which are open even up to now. So if there's an emergency in your community, people are dying, or what you call an emergency is a threat to life, or someone can be injured, or property can be lost because of climate impact. So if there's such kind of a thing, you can approach even on behalf of someone to say this household does, or this community is facing this, and these resources can be released within 24 to 74 hours at that level.
Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. We've come to the end of the program for this week. Do make a date with me next week, same time, same channel, as we continue to create a discourse for climate action in Zambia. I'm Mary Mwekisa. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.